Hey everyone, it's Absolute Flare, Flaring Flames, sometimes just Flare, or if you guys actually read any of my chats, name's Drew. And I am here today to talk about uh, the draft league that I've become a part of, the League of Extraordinary Trainers. So, one, I actually enjoy the name a lot. It's kind of hilarious. You can hyphenate it to LET, that's how most of us say it, because the League of Extraordinary Trainers is a mouthful. Anyways, I was part of this league last season for season 6. However, I joined as a replacement coach for them. So I didn't get the chance to draft my own team. I ended up inheriting a team from someone who could no longer play. So I didn't have much say in the Pokemon that I had with me, but I was allowed to also do a lot of free trading stuff. So I got some Pokemon that I wanted. Not to mention, this person's team actually had quite a few Pokemon I wanted to use, anyways. So it was fun, and so I decided that I would stick around and actually do the draft this time. And hopefully we'll actually do better than we did last season. Although I actually did significantly well last season, despite circumstances. I got 4th out of 12 people in my division. And for someone who just came on and is using a team that they didn't necessarily pick for themselves, I think that's pretty good. Anyways, back to this season. We are now at Season 7 for the LET conference. We're in the Rising Stars conference for them, which is below veterans, which, I mean, I was new to the league. I was still pretty new to it anyways. So me being in Rising Stars makes sense, not to mention the fact that they have set rules on how to join the veterans, and I'd have to be champion in the Rising Stars conference first. I don't have to, but I have to place very, very well in that. And not only that, but beat a few of the veterans in a tournament at the end of the season. I did not make it that far, so I'm in Rising Stars again. Now then, LET also extended the amount of people they were gonna bring into this season. They increased it for Rising Stars to 24 people. So that's double the number they had last season. So we've divided it into 2 divisions, the Rapid Strikes Division and the Single Strikes Division. Named after, of course, the Shifu forms. So this video is going to be my analysis of the general drafting from the League of Extraordinary Trainers and my own analysis, barring any huge spoilers for my opponents who may want to watch this. Hopefully. Or they may get other ideas. Anyways, with that said, we're going to move on to the next... we're going to move on to the rules from this draft. So, in order for the draft for the LET, you must have at least one pick of a Pokemon from tiers A through F. And you're limited to only one from the S tier, which is not required, and 2 from the F tier. We're allotted points that we spend on all these Pokemon in these different ranks. So, if I remember correctly, S plus was 220 points, and they gave us 1,020 to start off with. One of the other rules was that you can only have one form of a Pokemon that's based on their region or an application, like a forced change on it, like Rotom. So Rotom's different forms are all ranked separately, and you could only have access to one form of that. And as for the region-based, someone who is using Ninetales, for example, they can't have both Ninetales and Alolan Ninetales on the same team. So next is a banning of specific abilities. Libero was a huge one for people just because everyone believes Libero is what makes Cinderace so overpowered. I disagree to an extent, but I understand people's concerns about it, so I don't raise a fuss over that. Then there's a whole slew of all the evasion abilities, and moves as well, so those ones are all banned. So Sand Veil, Snow Cloak, and then attacks like Sand Attack, Mud Slap, those kind of things. Moody is also banned. For those of you that don't know what Moody does, Moody sharply raises one stat of a Pokemon and lowers it by one and lowers another stat by one stage at the end of every turn for that Pokemon, which can snowball very quickly and is heavily luck based. And then Guerrilla Tactics is also banned, which is Galarian Darmanitan's signature ability, which essentially gives it a choice band and locks it into a move, but the same as a choice band does. But the reason people don't like it so much is you're adding another item to a choice band. One of the most popular early strategies for Darmanitan, and is still heavily used today, to the best of my knowledge, is Choice Scarf. So not only would Galarian Darmanitan get Choice Scarf and Choice Band, but it has such an excessive move pool that makes it so powerful. So again, evasion and accuracy moves are all banned. So no double teaming, no minimizing. Nothing that's heavily luck based to change it. And then there's other various moves that are banned. A lot of the signature moves for Pokemon are banned. Like Geomancy from Xerneas, even though Xerneas can't be drafted, but the likes of Smeargle can learn it, so those kind of moves are all banned as well. Let's see here. So this is a new rule from last season. No Dynamax or Gigantamax allowed. In fact, last season, you weren't forced to run a Dynamax, Gigantamax Pokemon into every battle, but we were allowed to, which means you're heavily influenced by what your opponent would Dynamax or Gigantamax. And each coach was only allowed one Gigantamax. So from last season, I had Gigantamax Gengar. So I could only Dynamax my Gengar into Gigantamax form, and nothing else on my team could Dynamax at all. So after the draft is all over and done, we also get, as coaches, 3 free agent trades. Now, these trades are just for Pokemon that nobody picked up. So if nobody picked up, let's say, Tentacruel for some reason, and it's just floating there in our draft list, if I wanted to, I could spend any extra points I have in order to draft it onto my team, or swap out a Pokemon of equivalent point value for it. I don't have any extra points, so I can't do the former, but I could always swap it out for something else if I really wanted to. Those are free agent trades. Then there are 5 coach trades that are allowed for the season as well. These are trades between coaches, and those points also have to be equal as well. So then, some battle rules at least to keep in mind while you're drafting as well. Sleep Clause, which most people who would be watching this would probably know already. But basically, putting a Pokemon to sleep as your choice. Like, say you use Hypnosis on another Pokemon and it falls asleep. Your opponent swaps out that sleeping Pokemon. You can't use Hypnosis on that other Pokemon. Your opponent can only have one forced sleep going on at the same time. This, however, does not include rest. If your opponent uses rest, feel free to put another one of his Pokemon to sleep. And then we've got Baton Pass Clause. I'm not sure the exact specifications of a Baton Pass Clause for, say, Smogon, but for the LET, it's you can't pass Substitute or Stats through Baton Pass. So, no Scolipede Speed Passing, no Substitute then Baton Pass, nothing like that. Alright. So, this was actually my first, well, not first, per se. I've done a draft before. The thing is that I don't find that draft nearly as competitive as this one was. This is a heavily competitive draft. So, it is still a somewhat new experience to me. just to see what kind of Pokemon people decided to grab, what kind of strategies they had. So I developed my own strategy, kind of. I did initially start off with a plan for what Pokemon I wanted to have, and I did uh, change it based on what other people were doing, which I think would be a generally good idea, anyways. So I don't have too much insight into actually good drafting, as some other people who have had more experience with this might. But I think it's still nice to have a fresh perspective on these things, so it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. So, let's see here. I suppose next we'll actually get into what I was drafting. So, first and foremost, the way that we were drafting was that we were doing a snake formation. So, like, first person to draft would have to wait until everyone except them got their second pick before they could go again. So you go down a list and say, suddenly a 12th position gets 2 picks at the same time. That's because that's their turn. 12th goes first in the next round of picks. That's kind of how that goes. So it goes down, up, down, up, down, up, like that, with each of the ends getting double picks on their turn, aside from the first pick, obviously. Because who wants to give first place 2 picks right off the bat? Anyways, my placement in this draft was actually the second position. So I was in almost at the same position as first. They get to draft first for the first pick, but then they have to wait till everybody else got their second pick. I had to do the same. So, for most people, that would impede a lot of their secondary choices. One thing I will say, I actually got almost all of the Pokemon I wanted on my team, which I find really strange. But then again, I also have to think, it's me. I do a lot of strange things, so maybe I think of Pokemon that I like to use or want to use, and other people are saying, why? Why would you want to use that thing? And it's just like, because it's fun. That's how I do these things. I like being competitive, but I also do them to have fun. If I can't have fun and be competitive, I see no point. So, with that in mind, let's get down to my first pick. So, I know the first person in our draft, they picked Dragapult, to my surprise, actually. But again, I don't know what these people are thinking, just as they don't know what I'm thinking. So, with that in mind, I already had my mind dead set on what I was getting first, and the likelihood of my pick being taken from me by the first person I found very, very unlikely. And that's because my first pick... Oh, by the way, that's my logo for my team, so you'll be seeing these in future battle videos for the LET League. Anyways, my first pick. Urshifu Rapid Strike. This is the water fighting type that I took, and he is interesting. His signature attack is 3 hits in a row. All of them get to crit at a base 25 attack stat plus stab, obviously. So this thing will hurt, and it hits multiple times. And because they crit, defense boosts don't matter. So this guy really doesn't care if you're using Iron Defense all the time. So goodbye Corviknight and your stupid bulk up strategies. Even though I'm sure that Corviknight could actually probably take the crits and still bulk up and then subsequently KO this thing. So that's one thing that I'm definitely not gonna do unless I need to. But anyways, so other notable picks for me in this first round of drafting came from Single Strike Urshifu, which honestly that's what I was expecting to go first out of everyone. And most of these Pokemon are going to be the S plus tiers I was talking about earlier. These are the top Pokemon that you can draft for your team, and they cost the most. But anyways, Single Strike was taken. Let's see here. Clefable, Volcarona, Dracovish, just to name a few others. But yeah, so obviously the really high-powered or very useful Pokemon are getting picked off. First round pick, of course. So for my second round pick, this was the only thing that got sniped from me. Now then, granted, I say sniped, but I also figured this was going to happen anyway, so I did have a backup plan to this and something that was going to be on my team anyways. But right after my first pick, my secondary pick got picked. Riaboom. The reason I wanted to pick Riaboom was because my general plan was to take out a lot of the defensive checks for Urshifu Rapid Strike. That way people would have far less Pokemon to use against me. To try and block this guy, because obviously he's very powerful and he'll want to get through. But sadly, Riaboom got taken. So, my next thinking was, okay, the one thing on this team, on all these tiers that scares me the most at the moment is actually Single Strike. So, what Pokemon would be able to beat Single Strike, or at the very least tank a good few hits and be able to do something to Single Strike, or force it out? So, that was my secondary option over Riaboom, which was taken. So, this is actually something that floated around Smogon for a little bit, as far as I'm aware, but I actually chose Mandibuzz next. So, Mandibuzz, the Dark Flying type, obviously is not going to care too much about Single Strike's signature move, which is base 70, I think. No, 75. Yeah, base 75 attack power, but it always crits, just like Rapid Strike does. But it's a dark type move, so Mandibuzz doesn't care, because it'll resist that pretty good. And because Mandibuzz is always so bulky, Single Strike can't really afford to try to wear down Mandibuzz with something like Close Combat. Now granted, coverage moves exist, obviously. The Urshifu's both forms learn all the elemental punches, so Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, those are all still going to work on Mandibuzz, but Mandibuzz is still pretty bulky. So we're gonna see how well that works, and I'm hoping it's gonna work at least decently well for that, and of course as a general wall for most other things too. Because Mandibuzz is that bulky, and I am very happy to have it on my team. So one other thing I should note about the way that I was drafting, I was also putting a predominant focus on Pokemon that I have not used before in competitive battling. So, Urshifu being a new Pokemon, obviously I haven't gotten a lot of experience with it. I think my experience with it was literally going through the story just to get it to Urshifu and getting it trained. That's about it. Mandibuzz I have recently bred. However, it's had very limited use on my other battles just because I have so many other things going on that my time for battles is limited. So, I haven't used it a lot, so I'm still going to count it as a relatively new Pokemon for me to use. Alright, so after that, so now we're done with round 2. Round 2's picks, so now we snake around again. So that means the person who was in first position, who had to wait for all of us to get our second pick first, now gets to pick 2 Pokemon. So, that person got to pick, let's see here, it looks like they got both Hawlucha and Bisharp in the same pick on that. So, neither of those really concerned me a great deal, just because I have ideas of how to deal with them already. And one of those ideas was my third pick, actually. Rotom Mow. So, when you guys think of Rotom, I think the two common forms that people use for Rotom is Rotom Wash and Rotom Heat. The reason being is they're great defensive typings, and they're great offensive presence as well. Fire hits a lot of things, water hits a lot of things, water can tank a lot. And heat tanks the right kind of things that it needs to. So, That's why those are there. But then we get down to what I think is going to be a value pick for me. And when I say value pick, I mean a very good Pokemon for the tier that it's in. So Rotom was, let's see, I believe it was tier C, I believe it was C plus. Nope, not, yeah, C plus. So, and the pluses are all mean the same thing for my requirements. So, Urshifu S didn't count for any of my requirements, but Mana Buzz being a B plus tier counted for the B tier. Now I got Rotom Mo, and he counts for C. So I got two of my requirements done. And the reason I chose Rotom is because one, he's gonna be a decent hard stop to that Riaboom. Because Riaboom's main thing is that he's gonna be firing off all these grass type moves. So not only do I have Mandibuzz, but I have Rotom Mo as well to be a soft check to the Riaboom. Not to mention, Rotom has a variety of uses. He can be support, he can be an interrupter, he can be a choice scarf sweeper. All those things. There's a lot you can do with Rotom despite not being able to breed it with anything. It doesn't learn, it can't get any egg moves, nothing like that, but it comes with its vast move pool on its own. So, I honestly thought Rotom was a great pick in those terms. So that's why I went for it. Just to make sure I also had a Rotom form. Because, you know, everybody else is going to take Rotom Wash and Rotom Heat. At least that was my thinking in the beginning. Ironically, I was the first one to take a Rotom. So Rotom Wash and Rotom Rotom Heat were not even taken before I did this. So I was proven wrong on that one, but that's alright. I'll deal with it. So for my fourth pick, I still needed an A tier, and I needed something that I could count on to secure KOs. So I chose Dugtrio for that. Dugtrio, everyone already associates with the ability Arena Trap. And Dugtrio is also another role compression Pokemon. It can fulfill multiple roles at the same time or be entirely focused on one as well. Suicide Lead, Revenge Killer, all those sort of things. And ground typing is just very spammable. You've only got flying types that are immune to it, and only bugs and grass that are resistant to it. So anything else is basically fair game to say, hey, look, Earthquake! Click. So yeah, and Dugtrio is also very fast Pokemon. So that's gonna be very good for my team, which thus far the highest speed on my team is Urshifu at base 97 speed. So yeah, my team's a little bit on the slow side. All of those pseudo legendary dragons, most of them at least, can outspeed Urshifu with no problems. So I'd have to rely on Choice Scarf to beat a lot of those. Or if I could manage to do something with Dugtrio for them. However, any of those dragons that are flying types can get out easy because Arena Trap doesn't hit them. But again, that's why we have more than one Pokemon. No Pokemon is encompassing for every problem you have. There may be people who claim otherwise, but it's like you're gonna run into something that your Pokemon just can't handle. So build a team. Heck, build multiples of the Pokemon I plan to. It's just a whether of how much time I have to do so. Alright, so fourth round pick is done. And let's see here, notable picks for the moment thus far. Let's see. Round 2 saw Aegislash and Ferrothorn, two things that are not going to be great for me to fight at the moment. Got taken. Especially Ferrothorn, because that's another thing Urshifu does not precisely want to fight. Let's see here. Oh, I lied actually. It looks like Rotom Heat was taken before Rotom Mo was. So Rotom Heat got taken in second. in the second round, but that's all right. As I said, Rotom Heat was not something I was looking for. Let's see here. Round 3 saw Milotic, Incineroar, and Conkeldurr all taken. So those are Pokemon that are actually worry me quite a bit. But I have counters for everything except the Conkeldurr. But the Conkeldurr probably isn't going to like the Mandibuzz too much right now, so we won't worry about that. At least not for the moment, though I will have to address the lack of Pokemon here that can fight fighting types very well. Let's see. Round 4, after my Dugtrio, we've gotten to... Let's see here. Rotom Wash has been taken, Seismitoad has been taken, and Cinderace, actually. Now, I earlier said that Libero was banned. That doesn't mean that Cinderace can't be used, it just means that it has to run Blaze for its ability. Which, in all honesty, for how fast it is and how hard it can still hit with its signature move Pyro Ball, Cinderace is still going to be pretty useful. Not to mention, it is a wonderful, wonderful thing if you don't want to run Rapid Spin or Defog. Because, guess what? Court Change, its signature move. Switches, screens, hazards, all those sorts of things around, so that your opponent has to deal with them instead. I have used this to great effect multiple times with my own Cinderaces, who is probably one of my favorite Pokemon from this generation, but that's because of my mild obsession with bunnies. Let's see here, so we are on to round 5. So round 5 gave me the second pick in that round. So first pick was actually notably Indeedee. So remember how I said Pokemon with multiple forms are drafted separately? That's not the case with Indeedee. I'm not sure LET's reasoning behind that, but my guess is it's because it's gender-based. It's not like a forced change that you can do, like with Rotom Wash or... what was the other one I was thinking of? Oh well. Like with Rotom. So you force the changes on Rotom. So you obviously have to treat them separately. Not to mention that they all stack differently just because of what their typings are and what moves they have access to. But interestingly, as I said, Indeedee, both forms are available to the person who picked that. So, what do I have to answer Indeedee? Berserker. So, one of my friends commented on the fact that he doesn't see Berserker a lot in draft leagues. Honestly, I don't know why. Berserker is probably, out of all the Pokemon I've drafted on this team, the most heavily used I've had. So as I said before, I was aiming for a team that didn't rely too heavily on Pokemon that I've used in the past. Berserker is going to be a separate option, mostly because I felt like I needed a Steel type, but I didn't need a tank right now. I needed something more offensive. So in comes Berserker. Berserker hits very hard. Its only drawback is its defenses. It can take a physical hit somewhat well, but special attacks, nope, those are going to wipe the floor with this thing. And its speed makes it all the easier to get it KO'd. It's got, I think it's base 70 speed, somewhere around there. And please don't quote me on any numbers I give you, because these are all done from memory. So, for all I know, Berserker's a 100 speed Pokemon. Okay, that one's clearly a joke. It is definitely not 100 speed, but you catch my meaning. But Berserker has a wide variety of moves it can use, and I just love Berserker. One of my other friends used it heavily when the game first came out, and it's like, dear lord, what do I do about this thing? Because I always had so much problems dealing with it. Constant mind games with it. Anyways, Steel type, pure Steel type for my 5th slot, and a physical attacker. So, as you guys may have noticed, my team right now is definitely leaning more towards physical attacking Pokemon. So, either I have to figure out what special attackers I have, or I'm going to have to live with this, with what I've got, because physical attackers are far, far easier to check, in my opinion, than special attackers are. And that's mostly due to the abundance of Pokemon with the ability Intimidate. Moves that sharply lower attack, or in some cases just hinder you just by how massive it is, like Foul Play and Swagger. Or, quite frankly, just getting your Pokemon burned. That's a terrible, terrible thing. So, with that in mind, I had another problem that I had yet to address. And that is one Pokemon that terrifies me if it gets set up. That is Volcarona. Volcarona is a bug fire type, and it can easily force switches, which gives it free turns to set up Quiver Dance and then start sweeping the crap out of everything. Aside from maybe Unaware Clefable, but Clefable doesn't do as much to it in return. Anyways, Clefable's taken, so I can't draft that. So, with in mind to some of the weaknesses of having a mostly physical team and having to deal with Volcarona, I opted in for, as my 6th Pokemon, Colossal. Colossal is another roll compression Pokemon for me as well in this. It can do a lot of things. It can set up hazards. It'll eat any fire type attacks and sometimes even water type attacks to great effect. Scratch the water. This is singles. I'm not very likely to get it in on a water type attack. It can take. But the common strategy in doubles was to use like Surf or something on a Gigantamax Colossal with weakness policy, and then just go to town on people at +6 speed and +2 attack and special attack. It's an interesting strategy, and I kind of liked it, but this is singles, so I can't replicate that. So that portion of its usefulness is out the window. However, Colossal is very unique in the fact that I believe it to be a reliable check to Volcarona. Because 1, it can't get burned by Flame Body due to being a fire type. 2, it resists both of Volcarona's stabs. So even at +2 special attack, Colossal will still be able to handle both Bug Buzz and whatever fire type move it's running. Not with relative ease. Bug Buzz will probably half health it, but the point is that it can take the hits and then KO Volcarona in return. However, obviously we're talking about Volcarona at +2 special attack. By Quiver Dance, that means it's also at +2 special defense, so kind of have to run a different set on that thing. So obviously this would be, in this instance, probably running physical moves. But once again, not hindered by burns at all. It can still run its physical moves however much it would like and not worry about that portion of it. Though taking a Scald to the face will KO it, so burn is pointless on that move, and Flame Body, well, fire. But as I said, that's not all that Colossal can do. He's got hazard setting. He can run Rapid Spin in order to clear hazards from my side of the field. He's got a lot that he can provide this team with. So, with that said, that's at least 2 hazard control Pokemon. 3. 3 because Rotom can run Defog. I would just have to transfer that or get a Pokemon generator for that, but that'll be for me to decide later. Let's see here. And then round 7 is also a secondary pick for me. And I actually chose another fire type. This time I went with Centiskorch. So, obviously I'm starting to build a team that really does not like Stealth Rocks. So having 3 Pokemon that can get rid of Stealth Rocks is already pretty good for me. But here's my reasoning for getting the fire types, both of them. One, fire types in general. That's because of, once again, Urshifu's common switch-ins. They're going to be grass types or they're going to be water types. So what do I need in order to counter grass types? Fire and bugs, which Centiscorch is both. So I should be able to handle the majority of switch-ins for Urshifu with Centiscorch. Should being the key word. I have to obviously play well in order for that to work. Which is always up in the air. Sometimes I play like a god, sometimes I play like utter crap. I do not have a consistent play schedule. But that's alright. That's what makes these battles interesting. Sometimes you call them, sometimes you don't. And sometimes luck just surprises you. And then slaps you in the face a few times. Alright, so with that, I think we're on to, let's see here. Anything truly notable in my opinion on these teams that got drafted? So one thing that happened in round 6, the first F-tier Pokemon got drafted. So, as I was talking about, we were required to draft an F-tier Pokemon, but F-tier is for like bottom Pokemon that you don't want to use. And these encompass basically all the Pokemon who can still evolve. Not all of them, because there are some that people obviously recognize as very, very useful, even in competitive. I actually grabbed one of those later on, but we'll get to that one in a little while. Anyways, that person chose Shelmet as their sixth Pokemon. So I will be very interested to see if that Shelmet does anything. So it's something to watch out for. But these F tiers, do not underestimate them. A lot of them will be running Evilite, which raises their bulk considerably, and others offer just as much utility as their fully evolved forms. So those would be more basis that people would be drafting these Pokemon on. So suffice it to say, you're not going to see somebody draft, say, Zigzagoon, because Zigzagoon does not have a lot of utility outside of being somewhat of an offensive Pokemon. So, and him being Zigzagoon, not going to be very useful against these fully evolved Pokemon. Let's see, I think that's the only thing that I'm very much noticing from rounds 6 and 7. So then we come upon round 8, where I have to wait for other people again. So, this is one Pokemon that I think that gets overlooked a lot, and I honestly don't know why. I think this Pokemon's great. It's got good coverage moves, and it's able to do a lot of other things. The Pokemon is Delmise. Delmise is the grass ghost type. So, he can actually spin block. A lot of people's ways of getting rid of their hazard is by using Rapid Spin. You can't use Rapid Spin against a ghost type, so toss this guy in there when they're going to try and get rid of your hazards on their side of the field. Suddenly they're still stuck with them, and now they have to deal with whatever this thing's going to toss at them. Not only that, but he can actually learn Rapid Spin himself. So now I have, let's see here, 4 hazard removers on my team. Granted, obviously they're not all going to be doing that, but I'll be able to pick and choose which ones do which, depending on my battles. And he's also got a signature ability, Steelworker, which essentially gives this thing Steel-type attack stab. So he's got 3 different types that he can get stab damage from: Ghost, Grass, and Steel. And there are some very interesting Steel-type moves introduced in this game, so that could be very, very nice. Alright, on to my next pick, though. This next one will also be one that I've used to some degree. Not as much as Berserker recently, but this is also one of my favorite design Pokemons. And that is Cincino. I love the ability skill link so much. I abuse Cloister so much in a lot of my battles. But Cloister has its own thing, that's Shell Smash skill link. Cincino does not have that, unfortunately. However, it does have one thing over Cloister. It is significantly faster than it right off the bat. So, Cloister has to take a turn to get set up in order to outspeed everything. Cincino doesn't. Cincino's base speed is 112, if I remember correctly. So it is the second fastest Pokemon on my team thus far, only behind Dugtrio at 120. Now then, with Skill Link comes a lot of different items that you could use for it. The most common one used on Smogon is Choice Band. But there are plenty of other items that would benefit this as well. If you wanted to be able to move your switch between your moves, swap a Life Orb on this thing. It's not as much damage, but quite frankly, if you're using good type coverage, which Cincino is actually capable of with skill link moves, you don't need that extra damage. You're just going to KO whatever you're trying to hit because it's super effective. Then there's also people who will just run this thing to bring as much hacks as they can with it by adding King's Rock to its as its item. King's Rock applies a flinch chance. Cincino hits a Pokemon 5 times, and it only needs one of those times to be a flinch in order for that flinch to work. So I don't remember the exact flinch chance, but even at 10%, that's gonna be a significant amount of chance that Cincino gets a flinch off if it doesn't KO the Pokemon. So, what strategies am I gonna use on Cincino? You're just gonna have to watch my videos and find out, because I'm sure I've already revealed far too much about a lot of my other Pokemon, and I am not gonna make that. I'm gonna try and avoid doing that. Okay, so let's see here. So then next we got our round 10. So one thing I want to mention, that we drafted for 11 rounds. Granted, the amount of points you got, someone may have ended up with only 10 Pokemon, just because of how heavy they went on their top tier Pokemon. Or others could go up to 11 and possibly even more if they really wanted to. But we only drafted for 11 rounds. That's what was set. So we each have 11 Pokemon on our team, and I think everybody did that. So that'll be good. That means everybody has a level playing field in that regard, at least. But for my round 10 pick, obviously my points are running low, and there's a significant problem with my team. I've got one special attacker. That's it. So clearly, even though I've got 2 fire types to eat will-o-wisps, I'm still very vulnerable to things like Intimidate. So, how do I alleviate that? Obviously, get another special attacker. But what special attacker am I going to get with as low of a budget as I have that's still going to be good and still going to make up my relative lack of speed? Because the majority of my team at the moment are slower Pokemon. Well, this comes back to what I was saying earlier about having a not fully evolved Pokemon that can still be useful. Although that time I was arguing about using them as tanks or utility Pokemon. But there's a few golden Pokemon that are very capable of doing their own offensive damage, even against fully evolved Pokemon. One of those is Kadabra. Kadabra has the speed, it has a sky-high special attack stat at base 120. So, that thing is still going to hurt, and it's going to hit the fighting types that I currently have no coverage on right now. So that'll be very, very nice. And then, as I said before, Kadabra is very fast, so that helps patch up speed holes for me. Alright, let's see. Was there anything that was interesting from here? So from the last two picks, a few Pokemon that actually lasted longer than I thought they would. Poltergeist. Poltergeist is another Shell Smash sweeper primarily, and actually one of my favorite designed Pokemon from the new games. So I've used it extensively, one of the reasons why it's not on my team. And then we have Amoonguss. Amoonguss is obviously far better suited to doubles, but still a damn good tank with Regenerator for its ability, and it's able to put Pokemon to sleep like no tomorrow thanks to Spore. Let's see here. Celebi also lasted until round 10, and Celebi being an early mythic means that all of its base stats are 100. It's a good balanced Pokemon with a lot of options. I'm a little surprised nobody went with it right off the bat. Let's see here. So getting back to pre-evolved Pokemon, Scyther was drafted in round 9. Scyther is a Pokemon that I've been experimenting with recently. I like it, and it's going to be a good speed sweeper Pokemon. It's pretty fast, especially when compared to its evolution, Scizor. Scizor relies on priority. Scyther doesn't have to. So Scyther still has a pretty good attack stat at 105. Combine that with some of the new moves from Sword and Shield, and it will start hurting things. And I am very excited to see how well it does in this draft, even if I'm not the one who's using it. But it's also something that I gotta keep in mind, because actually, it's not something I have to worry about too much. I don't think too many of my Pokemon are weak to it, which I think is one of Scyther's problems, that not many Pokemon are going to be weak to its coverage, to its main stabs and its coverage. So that's one of the reasons why I think it is held back, and people often don't like using it over just evolving into Scizor. But that's alright. So then, we get to the final round. So we got our S tier, we've got our B tier, we've got our C tier, we've got our A tier. That's what Dugtrio was. Let's see here. After C would be D, and that is Berserker. And then we had E tier, which is what Colossal was. So after that, I had all the tiers I needed, aside from the F tier. F tier, as I explained earlier, is basically filled with Pokemon that can still evolve and are generally not that useful. However, I think there's some hidden gems in there, and I'm sure a lot of people will actually agree with me on that. As to what kind of hidden gems there are, well, I decided to go for a Pokemon that most people probably wouldn't think of. Frillish. Frillish is another spin blocker for my team. I can send it in against somebody who's trying to use Rapid Spin in order to get rid of their side of the field, hazards on their side of the field. Not to mention, a lot of Rapid Spinners don't like seeing water ghost types. So, with the chance of scalding them for burns and other stuff like that. So, before I drafted Frillish, I wanted to make sure of a few things. And in the calculations that I did on this, Frillish with an Evolite is actually even bulkier than Jellicent is. And that's in both physical defense and special defense. If they're trained exactly the same way, Frillish will survive more attacks than Jellicent will. Not to mention, Frillish is still capable of dealing damage. Ghost types are notorious for being able to deal damage even if their attack stats aren't very high. And then it can still do all of its walling abilities that Jellicent had, of course, as well, thanks to a lot of its attacks. You got the new move that was introduced, Strength Sap, dear lord, I hate that move so much. But obviously, Frillish is going to be spamming that on a lot of the physical attackers. So, I honestly think that Frillish is going to be a great addition to my team. I am having high hopes for it, and I do plan on using it on my team, even if it is an F tier Pokemon. So, with that, that'll wrap up all the draft for me. So I got done with the draft early because it's round 11, so that means I was the second person to pick in that round, thanks to our snake formation on that. So between rounds, let's see, round 11, there are a few things that are actually funny that only got picked then. Barraskewda, the notorious Rain Sweeper from earlier in this game's history. Jirachi, probably one of the biggest faces of... my friends called it nub-tub strategy. I'm not sure how popular of a phrase that is. But essentially, paralysis, flinch. The Pokemon's going to paralyze you, or something's going to paralyze your Pokemon. This thing comes in and just flinches you to death, or you get paralyzed. It makes use of that sort of strategy. So that's partially what I expect from Jirachi. Jirachi's capable of far more than that, obviously, but that's one of the things I really want to watch out for on the Jirachi. And funny enough, somebody actually drafted Jellicent in that same round that I drafted Frillish. So now we get to deal with both. Let's see here. I think that is all of those that I can think of. So, all in all, I'm very happy with my team. The only thing that I would have preferred to have on my team that I didn't get was Riaboom. And I mean, I was fully expecting not to get Riaboom with the way I was going to approach it. So with that in mind, I basically got the team that I wanted, got all the Pokemon that I had, and I will, of course, enjoy using every one of them. This forced me to go ahead and breed most of these Pokemon, so now I have new Pokemon for just general battles, which I love to do. So, that ends my analysis of my own team. As for the analysis of the other teams, I don't believe I'm going to go into really that much detail. I might cover that during my battles, because all my battles are going to be recorded and have commentary as I do the battling, which hopefully won't split my focus too much and cause me to lose, but who knows? I've done worse things before. So, top tier threats to my team I am going to keep to myself, even though I'm sure I've already spoiled it several times in this video already, but I'm not going to summarize that for my opponents who might want to watch this. Needless to say, though, I am looking forward to this season. I am looking forward to battling all of these new people, because I think my division is filled with almost entirely new people. So that means I'll get to have the chance to battle even more people who have different strategies, who will want to go through all of this. So I am more than happy to just be doing this in general. And I would like to thank the organizers for the League of Extraordinary Trainers for putting on this draft stuff. I find the battles fun. I find doing leagues fun. And I love being competitive about it. So, hopes and aspirations for this. Obviously, I'm aiming to be the top Rising Star. And to move on to the tournament between the lower placing Veterans Conference and the top players of the Rising Star divisions, both of them, the end tournament, and then winning all that and hopefully getting a place in the Veterans Conference for next season. Will that happen? We'll see. I did well last season. I don't see any reason why I can't do that well now. So, with that, I will leave you guys to it, And I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis, and I hope you will continue to enjoy the battles that will be coming to you as soon as we get these things rolling. So with that, have a good night, and I will see you all out on the battlefield.